They were doubles partners in January. They shared a locker room, split water bottles courtside, and celebrated a semi-final run in Auckland by taking down Venus Williams and Alina Svitolina in one of the most talked-about generational upsets of the early season. 4 months later, Alex Eala and Iva Jovic walk onto the red clay of Roland Garros, not as allies, but as opponents. And what makes this first-round draw genuinely shocking is not just the quality of the matchup, but the intimacy each player brings into it. They know each other's games from the inside. They have stood 3 feet apart at the net and communicated without words. Now they have to pretend none of that matters. Let me explain why this match is far more complicated than the ranking gap suggests. On paper, the seedings look decisive. Jovic sits at world number 17, fresh off a season that has included an Australian Open quarterfinal where she annihilated Julia Putinese 6-love 6-1, a semi-final in Charleston, a third round in Madrid, and a fourth-round run in Rome where she pushed Coco Gauff to 3 sets and held an actual match point before losing. Ella enters at 38, coming off a Strasbourg first-round exit and carrying the kind of inconsistency that makes prediction feel irresponsible. So why am I telling you this match could produce the first genuine shocker of the women's draw? Because context at a Grand Slam is never just about rankings. It is about timing, about psychology, about what each player needs from this specific moment, and about the strange alchemy of former partners meeting in combat. Start with Jovic. She is 18 years old and the 2026 season has been extraordinary. That Australian Open run announced her to the global audience. Beating Jasmine Paolini in the third round, the world number 8, was a statement of generational intent. She became the youngest American to reach the Melbourne quarterfinals since Venus Williams in 1998. The WTA title in Guadalajara last September gave her the confidence of a proven closer. The Hobart final in January showed she could sustain form across weeks. Everything about her trajectory says upward. But here is what few people are talking about. Jovic's clay court record in 2026 is actually uneven once you look past the Rome run. She lost to Leylah Fernandez in 3 sets in Madrid after taking the first set. The Fernandez loss exposed something specific. When Jovic's first strike game is neutralized by an opponent willing to extend rallies and vary pace, she becomes uncertain in longer exchanges. She won 71.9% of her service games this season overall. But that number is propped up significantly by her hard court dominance. On clay specifically, the surface slows her timing-based aggression just enough to create doubt. And then there is the Rome match against Gauff. Everyone focuses on how close Jovic came to winning, and she did come close, holding a match point at 5-3 in the second set. But what happened after tells a different story. When Gauff saved that match point, something shifted in Jovic's body language. Her first serve percentage cratered. She became tentative, and a cut on her hand from a fall on the dirt compounded the mental disruption. Gauff won 5 of the last 6 games. That is a young player learning in real time that closing out top 5 opponents at Grand Slam venues requires a different psychological composition than reaching them. Jovic arrived in Paris carrying the residue of that near miss. Not trauma exactly, but the particular weight of knowing you had a door open and could not walk through it. Now consider Ella. She turned 21 yesterday on the 23rd of May. She enters Roland Garros for only her second main draw appearance. Last year she lost in the first round to Emiliana Arango. Nothing about that experience was memorable. But the player who walks onto court, Philippe Chatrier or Suzanne Langland this time, is categorically different from the one who lost 12 months ago. This has been a season of genuine firsts. Her Dubai quarterfinal in February where she beat Sarana Circe and pushed deep into a WTA 1000 put her on the map. Her career-high ranking of 29 in March made her the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player in history, male or female. Her run, where she beat Magdalena Fix 6-love in the first set and then took down Wang Senu to reach the third round of a clay court WTA 1000 for the first time, proved she can compete on this surface against quality opposition. Even the Rio Quina loss in the next round was not a disgrace. It was the world number 2 dispatching a first-time opponent with clinical efficiency. The inconsistency is real though. A 6-62 loss to Machova in Miami. An early exit in Stuttgart. A first-round defeat to Oalova in Strasbourg just days ago. Eala's 2026 season reads like two different players occupying the same body. On her best days, she is a left-handed shotmaker with disguise, timing, and the kind of angle creation that makes opponents guess wrong. On her worst days, her footwork becomes average. Her court positioning passive, and she gives free points through unforced errors. So, which version shows up in Paris? Here is where the doubles partnership becomes the critical variable. A and Jovic spent a week together in Auckland at the start of this season. They practiced together, strategized together, shared a bench during changeovers. In doubles, you learn things about a partner that you cannot learn watching tape. You learn how they breathe before big points. You learn where their confidence sits and where it fractures. You learn the serve patterns they default to under stress. Eala knows Jovic's tendencies on an almost physiological level, and Jovic knows Eala's. This mutual knowledge cuts both ways, but I think it slightly favors the underdog. When you are the lower-ranked player walking into a match where the betting market has you at significant odds, anaformational edge matters more. Eala does not need to spend the first 3 games figuring out Jovic's patterns. She already knows them. She knows Jovic likes to step inside the baseline and take the ball on the rise. She knows Jovic's forehand timing is calibrated to hard court speed and that clay introduces a half-second of bounce she is still learning to account for. She knows Jovic's serve while improving does not dominate the way it needs to. For her aggressive baseline game to fully click. The tactical picture for a clearer than most analysts acknowledge. As a left-hander, she naturally opens up angles that disrupt right-handed players' rhythm. Her serve swings into the body of a right-handed returner or kicks wide to the ADC court in ways that are genuinely uncomfortable for someone like Jovic who prefers to time clean returns off predictable ball flights. On clay, where the ball bounces higher and the spin differential increases, Eala's lefty top spin becomes a more pronounced weapon than it is on hard courts. This is not a surface that erases her. It amplifies a specific subset of her skills while punishing another subset. The question is whether she can sustain the tactical discipline for 2 or 3 sets against an opponent who when firing hits with significantly more consistent depth and pace. Jovic's ball striking at its best has a compressed efficient quality. She does not need long back swings. She absorbs pace and redirects it with minimal wind-up. On hard courts, this makes her devastating. On clay, it makes her very good but not invulnerable. Let me talk about the surface itself. Roland Garros clay is slower than Madrid's, lower bouncing than Rome's in some courts, and rewards patience in ways that pure aggression struggles to override. Jovic played her first French Open last year on a wild card and won 1 round before falling to Raikkonen. That means she has exactly 1 completed match of Roland Garros experience. Eala also has only 1 and she lost it. Neither player arrives with course-specific knowledge that tilts the balance. Both are essentially learning this particular clay in real time. But Eala trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca specifically to develop her clay court game. She has put deliberate hours into understanding how the surface changes her decision. Jovic, by contrast, has built her clay comfort through competitive matches rather than specific off-sea court preparation. Both approaches have merit, but under Grand Slam pressure, the player who has consciously rehearsed the adjustments may find them more accessible when adrenaline narrows the cognitive window. I want to address the crowd factor. Eala draws crowds. The Filipino tennis community is passionate and growing, and her presence at Roland Garros will bring a vocal emotional contingent into whatever court this match is scheduled on. Grand Slam first rounds often take place on outer courts where the atmosphere is more intimate and the crowd noise carries further. Eala has shown this year that she feeds off audience energy. In Dubai, the support from the Filipino diaspora was palpable and she played some of her best tennis of the season. Jovic as an American 18-year-old is not without fan support, but the dynamic will likely favor Eala in terms of emotional fuel. Now, my actual assessment. I think Jovic wins this match. Let me be direct about that. Her service game consistency at 71.9% this season. Her superior breakpoint conversion, her ability to impose pace even on clay, and her deeper experience against top 10 opponents this year all point toward a straight set or early third set victory. The betting market has her around -263 for good reason. She is the better player right now by most measurable metrics. But here is why I refuse to call this routine. Eala's ceiling on any given day is high enough to trouble anyone outside the top 5. We saw it in Rome against Wongsanu. We saw it in Dubai before. Goff suffocated her. And the emotional architecture of this match is unlike anything either player has faced. You cannot simulate in practice what it feels like to stand across the net from someone you hugged after a doubles victory 4 months ago and try to dismantle their game. The first few games will be psychologically strange for both players. Whoever normalizes that strangeness first gains an enormous advantage. I think Eala, as the older player with more tour experience overall despite the ranking gap, may actually handle that emotional transition better. The scenario where Eala wins looks like this. She comes out serving with aggression using the lefty angles to keep Jovic off balance in the return games. She extends rallies to 12-15 shots, making Jovic work for every point and denying her the quick strike opportunities she prefers. She targets the Jovic backhand consistently, forcing Jovic to generate her own pace from a wing that is solid but not a weapon. And she capitalizes on any first serve dip from Jovic early in the match before the American can find her rhythm. If Eala can win the first set, the psychological landscape transforms entirely. Jovic's Rome loss to Goff showed that when momentum shifts against her, she has not yet developed the internal mechanism to arrest the slide. The scenario where Jovic wins looks like this. She takes the ball early from the first point, denying Eala time to set up her angles. She attacks Eala's second serve, which remains vulnerable with depth and intention. She keeps rally short, finishing points in under 6 shots whenever possible. And she serves at high enough percentages that Eala never gains the rhythm in return games needed to build pressure. If Jovic holds comfortably in the first 3 service games, the structural advantage becomes self-reinforcing. For those following from various parts of the world, here is how to catch this match. In the United States, coverage is on TNT, True TV, and streaming on Max. In the United Kingdom, TNT Sports and Discovery Plus carry full tournament coverage across Asia. beIN Sports provides live access in Australia. 9 and Stan Sports share broadcast rights. In the Philippines specifically, check local listings as coverage arrangements can vary, but beIN Sports Asia typically carries the full Roland Garros schedule. In Canada, TISN and RDS offer coverage. In Latin America, ESPN and Star Plus handle broadcast duties. The match is scheduled for Sunday, May 25th as part of the first round action. What makes this first round compelling beyond the tactical questions is what it represents for both women's careers at this exact moment. Eala needs a Roland Garros win to prove that her clay court development is real and not just a Rome anomaly. She needs it to validate the Nadal Academy investment, the surface-specific training, the conscious decision to pursue growth rather than comfort. A loss here to appear she knows well on the surface she has historically struggled with sends her into the grass season with serious questions about whether the clay project is working. Jovic needs a clean opening win to demonstrate that the Rome match point failure is behind her. She needs it to show that her clay court game translates to Roland Garros specifically, not just to Italian and Spanish clay. A loss to a lower-ranked former doubles partner in the first round of a Grand Slam would be the kind of early career stumble that reshapes how the tour perceives you, even if temporarily. Both players carry weight they did not choose into this match. A carries a country. When she steps onto court, she represents 110 million Filipinos for whom tennis has never had a viable champion. That is not metaphorical pressure. It is literal. Every point she plays generates thousands of simultaneous reactions across social media in Manila, in Cebu, in the Filipino communities of Dubai and Los Angeles and London. Jovic carries the weight of American tennis expectation, the constant comparison to golf, The question's about whether she is the next great one or merely the next very good one. Neither player asked to represent anything beyond herself, but Grand Slams do not permit that kind of anonymity. I will say this clearly. If Ella plays at her Rome level, takes the ball with intention, moves forward into the court rather than retreating behind the baseline, and serves with the conviction she showed against Pavlyuchanova in Madrid, she can win this match. Not will can. The gap between these two players is real, but narrow enough that a single set of favorable momentum can erase it. And the particular conditions of this matchup, the intimacy, the clay, the Grand Slam occasion, the birthday energy create just enough chaos at the margins to make certainty impossible. Watch the first 4 games. If Ella holds serve cleanly in her opening game and creates a deuce point or break opportunity in Jovic's first service game, you will know immediately that the upset is live. If Jovic races through her first 2 service games at love or 15, dropping no more than 2 points, Eala's window will close quickly and may not reopen. Tennis at this level operates on narrow margins, and the first 10 minutes often contain more diagnostic information than the entire second set. This is a first-round match that has no business being a first-round match. 2 players who shared a court as friends 4 months ago must now find the competitive coldness to treat each other as obstacles. One of them will go home on Sunday. That is the unforgiving arithmetic of Grand Slam tennis. I believe Jovic survives, but I would not bet my house on it. And if Ella pulls this off, if she finds the version of herself that won 3 consecutive matches on clay in Rome against legitimate opposition, then the French Open just gained its most compelling early storyline. Either way, do not miss this.